You really shouldn't smoke. We know that now. Hey!
Hey there, I'm your host, Jeremy Burke Miller, and today we're talking about Radiant Black. Did you know Image Comics' Radiant Black is now a fully realized universe? Author Kyle Higgins and illustrator Marcelo Costa collaborated to offer the very first series to comic book fans, and it is already generating spin-offs. Readers were introduced to Nathan Bernett, who develops abilities after discovering the Radiant. Image Comics' breakthrough with the series prompted the publication of the first issue for free online. The one-shot Supermassive demonstrated how eager fans were to view Radiant Black in crossovers with other heroes. Radiant Black is growing with the addition of many new characters based within the massive verse, all with their own mythology. The narrative, which began with Higgins and Costa's outstanding world building, has generated new story arcs from other writers to continue expanding Image Comics' universe. This comic book series is a treat for the fans of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Exploring the comic book, Radiant Black serves as our main hero. A touch of the enigmatic cosmic energy source, the Radiant, bestows upon him his abilities. Along with a symbol and power set reminiscent of a black hole, Nathan and Marshall, two best buddies, share the heroic role. Nathan is a failing writer who has returned to live with his family in his birthplace of Lockport, Illinois. Marshall is a childhood friend of his. They'll go to heaven or hell for each other as Radiant Black, and work to expand the local valorous legend of the stylish hero. Radiant Black offers it all, from gravitational manipulation to energy bursts to super modes with capes. The comics begin with chronicling the narrative of Nathan Bernett, who is now finally 30 years old, and things aren't going well. He's underperforming at multiple jobs, his financial stress is mounting, and his only option is to return home with his family. When Nathan uncovers and activates this otherworldly cosmic radiant, he gains the ability to alter his fortunes drastically. There's just one issue: the powers aren't his to claim. Oh, also, the cosmic beings that created them are determined to reclaim them by any means possible. In the debut issue of the comic titled Not So Secret Origin, Nathan Bernett is working for a ride-sharing firm in Los Angeles, and is on a call with his bank about a loan. He's turned down for a loan because of his debt-to-income ratio. As he continues to seek assistance in obtaining a loan, he breaks down in tears right after his first passenger comes at the door. A week later, he's back in Lockport, Illinois, relocating with his parents. Marshall, his longtime buddy, arrives to greet him while he's unloading his car. After a brief period of playful bullying, he asks him out for a drink. While they're drinking, Nathan informs Marshall that he's acclimated up to $38,000 in credit card bills. Nathan tells Marshall that he's been spending a lot of money while writing his book and waiting for a deal. Marshall is assisting Nathan when walking down the road from the pub after many pints. As Nathan's talking about all the great things they would do together now that he's back in town, a weird black orb advances towards them in the sky as they draw closer to the railroad tracks near Marshall's vehicle. When Nathan goes out to touch it, it clings to him and totally coats his entire body like armor. Marshall becomes enthusiastic about this development, but Nathan feels dizzy and bewildered and manages to vomit through his helmet. Two police officers arrive at the scene with their grips on their weapons, questioning the two friends' present situation while they're still attempting to figure out what's going on. Marshall swiftly tries to convince the cops to leave them both alone, but the officers are only interested in removing both guys off the railroad lines as a train is about to arrive. In a hurry, Nathan shoves Marshall off the path and unintentionally levitates both the officers and the entire train. While the cops are terrified, Marshall makes a bargain with them to ignore what they've witnessed in return for letting them back down. Nathan grabs Marshall and takes off, flying away from the tracks. Nathan and Marshall have a deep and honest conversation while Nathan figures out how to remove the helmet. He acknowledges that actually the book deal he would have been concentrating on began 4 years ago, but he's yet to write the first chapter. Nathan tells Marshall that he already feels like a failure. Meanwhile, while Marshall consoles Nathan, a man in a red outfit identical to Nathan is seen stealing from a bank in Chicago. In issue 2 of the comic series titled Better Off Red, we are already privy to the information Nathan discovered an extraterrestrial artifact that transformed him into a superhero the day before. But today, his father says he needs to find a job. Therefore, he'll be driving for a ride-sharing firm. Oh, and there's somebody out there stealing banks with similar abilities to his. is. That's about to become another significant challenge in his life. We get to witness a bit more of our hero's origin backstory, which lowers both the viewer and Nathan back to earth. He's penniless, living with his parents, and roaming out all night. So his father has a talk with him about money, responsibilities, and careers, but Nathan refuses to listen. Later, the cops from issue 1 appear and pressure Nathan to assist with situations such as bank burglaries in Chicago perpetrated by a red variation of the Radiant outfit. In an excellent passenger montage, Nathan strikes two birds with one stone by using his employment at the ride-sharing firm to seek leads on where the robber could be, but he must be cautious of what he asks for the suddenly powerful Nathan has no idea how to use all of his talents. And clearly this provides Radiant Red, his new competitor, with a significant advantage. This issue focuses on the initial reaction to becoming a hero, rather than the more magical stuff. We see a hilarious conversation as to the correct number of raisins that should be put in oats, as well as some insightful remarks from his father. In the third issue of the series, titled Writing Day, Nathan Bernett is your average author with a writer's block. Oh, and he is also a budding superhero. When his most recent short tale seems to be going nowhere, he seeks for inspiration everywhere he can. Nathan Bernett can't seem to get started on his tale without a bank thief who gets a second chance at life. When he attempts to settle into a place in his sitting room, his mother disturbs him, so he chooses to go into his room. Nathan inevitably ends up staring at cat memes. He makes less progress the more he tries to focus, so he steps outside for a bit of fresh air. Nathan runs into his buddy, Marshall, who's operating the counter at a video rental store. They have a loud discussion on what to name Nathan's superhero character. Nathan isn't really sold on the concept of being a superhero. However, Marshall is all in and rapidly establishes a presence on social media for the newly christened Radiant Black. Nathan walks away, clearly irritated. He then goes to a nearby bar for a drink, intending to delve more into the persona he's creating. He returns home after jotting in a notepad and gulping down 2 pints, realizing that his tale is still going nowhere. While Nathan is typing on his laptop in his bedroom, his window smashes inwards as an apparent Radiant Black swoops in, snatches Nathan, and takes off far into the sky. Radiant Black abandons him to die, just as Nathan awakens, shrieking from his nightmare. His phone is buzzing as the social networking page Marshall puts up alerts him that someone has requested assistance. Radiant Black replies to the plea for assistance. A family driving to a basketball match is stranded on the highway due to a flat tire. Radiant Black attempts and fails to fix it, so he glides the automobile to the arena just as the game is about to begin. The issue concludes with Radiant Black receiving a thank you gift befitting for a cat lover, and Nathan regaining his rhythm. The next issue of the series, titled Everything Changes, brings us to the confrontation that we've all been waiting for. Everything so far had led up to this. Radiant Black versus Radiant Red, getting into a blow-down, drag-out brawl throughout Lockport. And believe us, as we warn you, that there is nothing that will be the same after this struggle for either Lockport or Radiant Black. We genuinely mean it. After the events of the last issue, in which Nathan spent much of his time delaying his writing, it's finally time to get back to the adventure. The alien voice Nathan has been sensing for the several previous issues becomes more prominent and more apparent until he's engulfed by it and encounters Existence, the armor's voice. Existence tells Nathan of impending peril and requests that he finish the initiation process by declaring his willingness to murder the mysterious enemy who will destroy them all. Nathan's perplexed, and he hesitates. Marshall later meets up with Nathan and they put the Radiant Black abilities to the test before going to a movie marathon. Marshall deduces that Nathan's moods are tied to his abilities, and after discussing an old lover, Nathan appears to grasp how the energy bursts work. They discuss what Marshall might be like if he had been a superhero instead of Nathan on the route to the theater. Red appears out of nowhere, only seconds after his touching moment, and Nathan gears up to rescue his comrade and his hometown. Their fight swiftly escalates, destroying most of the town center. The haughty Red threatens Nathan's town, friends, and family, pushing him over the line and causing him to overactivate his powers, easily defeating Red. As he turns away, Red attempts to attack him from behind, but Nathan reacts, causing their bursts to collide and knock down a building. Nathan's new abilities assist him in upholding the foundations, as Red and others escape, but Nathan is, unfortunately, unable to rescue himself. The 5th issue of the comic series, titled Aftermath, concludes Radiant Black's first arc here. Radiant Red continues to remain at large. He must be stopped before anyone else is injured. But after the occurrences of the previous issue left his hometown and the rest of the world in shock, is Radiant Black still up for the challenge? And is he still going to be fighting alone? Marshall's problems begin when he witnesses a medic attempting to resuscitate Nathan. He's suddenly Radiant Black, and now the public holds him responsible for the catastrophe. Thankfully, a little adrenaline gets Nathan inhaling again, but what damage to the brain he has endured from being without oxygen for 6 minutes. Marshall feels every ounce of regret for poor Nathan's dangerous but courageous efforts, and sets out as quickly as possible to find and reckon with Radiant Red. He finds him at the junkyard in Chicago from the previous few issues and attacks him. He immediately gains control and pushes Red into the cold lake. He rests believing the battle is finished until a stronger Hulkbuster version of Red smashes from the frost after bulking up from ingesting the substance of the water. Radiant Yellow and Radiant Pink, who appear to be escaping from an unknown enemy, are also introduced to us through an explosive teleport. The first arc concludes with a fantastic issue that transforms Marshall the Clown into Marshall the Hero, complete with a superhero cape. And since he is now totally united into existence, he has much more access to his powers, allowing him to beat up Red swiftly, who is hiding underneath Radiant Red's helmet. Red, issue 6 of Radiant Black, promises us a red-hot new narrative that questions all we believe we know about the guy behind the mask. The issue includes a special one-shot featuring the artwork of famed David Darko Lafuente, who has contributed to the Ultimate Spider-Man as well as Superman, and special co-writer Cherish Chen. After the suspenseful issue 5, we return to the enigmatic Radiant Red's Genesis backstory. Satomi Sohn is spending Thanksgiving dinner with her extended family and prospective husband Owen, discussing their forthcoming marriage, but everything seems to be darker as they begin to travel back home. Lloyd from the neighborhood MK Bank is looking for Owen at their house, and it becomes evident that he's been hiding money problems from Satomi and has started gambling again, something he promised he'd never do. Satomi, enraged, dashes out to find out how many debts they'd accumulated while she senses a disturbance. Something in the sky has erupted into many colors, and she is devoured by a red void. She discovers that she can take materials and transform them into armor while testing her newfound abilities, but learning the actual extent of Owen's debts may lead Satomi to do things she never thought she would do. This flashback issue serves to contextualize the previous 5 issues. The fight in which he blames her for bothering to follow up on his ex best exemplifies her attempt to evaluate her feelings for Owen in contrast with his behavior. When she eventually responds to him, he backtracks and defends himself with love, driving her over the brink of her sanity. Satomi bears her burden all alone, and as her situation worsens, the hidden responsibilities of her worthless husband appear to weigh heavily on her. In issue 7 in the comic book series called Radiance, we are presented with a new plot arc. Following on from the dramatic conclusion of the 5th issue, Radiant Black's life has just become a hell of a lot more complex. Will our hero make it out alive, chased by a new threat and unsure who to trust? Is this the final nail in the coffin for Radiant Black? Following the interlude in issue 6 that revealed Red's astonishing backstory, we're back in the thick of the plot with Pink, Yellow, Black, and Red Radiance, battling the strange glitchy Radiant. Outmatched, outskilled, and yet learning, the heroes flee to Tokyo with the assistance of Pink. With the enemy only minutes after them, they have to escape out of the populous region, but they're only able to travel as far as a Japanese forest. They are ambushed in the air and fall to Earth, but Pink and Black clutch each other and wind up in a random area of time and space, surrounded by a space flight between radiant-ish robots. Marshall's sense of humor remains as he instructs the squad on how to make a vomit gap in their headgear, but this is the only proof his human side is still strong. Black realizes he can power up Pink, and they return right in time for the last showdown. This issue also demonstrates how the rivalry between Red and Black is indeed still raging, as well as providing a glimpse into the characters of the new colored Radiance. In the most recent issue of Radiant Black titled Unauthorized, Marshall and Nathan are coping with further turmoil in their life. Nathan finally has a talk with the gigantic robot that empowered them, and arrived at some unexpected discoveries. Meanwhile, Marshall is dealing with the production of a fan film that sets Radiant Black against some other heroes and paints them in a negative light. At the same time, the reappearance of the sound-powered adversary Doppler compels him to reconsider what type of a hero he wants to be. Marshall also devotes a whole paragraph to illustrate why Radiant Black is such a deadly foe. Another important topic addressed by Higgins and Siegel in this installment is discovering one's destiny. And this has been a reoccurring theme in the series from its inception. Nathan tries to assist Marshall, who is now Radiant Black, by telling him about the bond he really has with the bot, and also helping with the fan video business. Despite taking on the role of a villain, Doppler does not want to do anything wrong. She requires the charge she receives through Radiant Black to deal with her chronic ailment, and in one of the issue's most poignant scenes, Marshall is made to acknowledge why he's become a hero, which says a great deal about his angst. Even though he never sought to be a hero, he's trying his best to do things his way, which is why he deserves some respect. Elements of Higgins and Siegel's Image Comics superhero historical piece, Cowl, have steadily seeped through Radiant Black, and this is the most notable example of the two universes merging. The issue offers a contemplation on fans and purpose, with some cunning nods to one of its co-creators' early works. Instead of the typical backup tales that come with each issue of Radiant Black, the producers have created an animated short that is related to this issue. The issue also demonstrates that Higgins, Costa, and company continue to produce one of the most nuanced superhero storylines of the decade with each new installment of the series.
Hey, I'm Radiant Black. Nah, don't freak out, but you're in the future.
The ultimate Easter egg in number 15. Radiant Black fans were treated to a very special gift in the most recent issue of the spectacular superhero comic. A concealed QR code directs users to the most incredible Easter egg, a completely animated short film titled Versus. This new short, helmed by Radiant Black writer and creator Kyle Higgins, illustrated by Tiger Animation, and starring Will Friedle from Batman Beyond as Radiant Black himself, offers us a glimpse of what the comic may look like as an animated series. Higgins isn't creating a short film for the first time to flesh out the characters and locations from one of his comics. Cowl was inspired by the 2008 film The League. Radiant Black's visual Easter egg was inspired directly by such a cross-media approach. In the short film titled Versus, Radiant Black vs. Blaze, we are transported back to 1964, which is nearing the beginning of the end for Cowl. Blaze is seen talking to a man named Jeffrey at a bar, who tells him that Paul is about to expose them in 25 minutes, and he has the documents to support his statements with him. Jeffrey tells Blaze that he warned Paul of the consequences and gave him other options, but he made his choice. As Blaze steps out of the bar and lights up a cigarette, he's greeted by Radiant Black, who informs him that he's been transported to the future so that Radiant could beat him and prove everybody wrong, and set the records about his superpowers straight. Surprisingly enough, it seems as though the giant robot favors Blaze over Black, as it chooses to supercharge Blaze instead of him. Black is a massive fan of Blaze, and while they're both embroiled in battle, he asks Blaze for his gauntlet, which an annoyed Blaze immediately refuses. Black ends up losing the fight, but before sending Blaze back to the past, he warns him about how his actions will change the future for the worse. But they're both aware that, in the end, the past cannot be changed. So they bid their farewells. Blaze leaves Black with a tiny souvenir as he goes. When asked about the short film, Higgins explained that one of the aims of Radiant Black was always to find ways somehow to celebrate what they liked, while also stretching the bounds and norms of what they believed a modern superhero comic might be. The ability to create an in-universe short movie like this, while working with an incredible ensemble of colleagues, has proved to be really rewarding for him. It also completes the cycle, allowing him and Alex Siegel to explore the universe of Cowl, and the short video that spawned it, The League.
Oh, you know, not too terrible.
What makes Radiant Black so powerful? Radiant Black has the superpower of flight, a pretty cool but standard power amongst superheroes. Most of his powers center around gravity manipulation. Because his outfit seems to stem from a black hole, his powers reflect those of one too. He also has the power of telekinesis, which means he can move objects with just the power of his mind and emotions. He can also forcefully push objects and people. He is also, quite obviously and classically, super strong, because what superhero doesn't have super strength? Radiant Black also has a sort of team-up power, especially when it comes to Radiant Pink, which means that he can use his own energy blast to boost Pink's power. He also has enhanced durability and is way stronger and more resistant than a regular human being. He also possesses the power of telepathy, but only with other Radiants. They can all communicate with one another when it's not physically possible for them to talk. The Radiant Black comic series is quite the revolution when it comes to the superhero genre of books, and it has really set itself apart from its competitors. This series was pretty unknown at first, but it seems to be taking the world by storm, and is slowly but steadily increasing in popularity. It has the potential to become a great franchise, almost comparable to any of the Marvel comic series. The recent short film also demonstrated that Radiant Black is evidently equally charming on the film as he is on paper, and we're sure that, like us, many fans are waiting for another animated tidbit or short film. We look forward to the upcoming stories involving the Radiants, and we hope you'll find time to check out this genuinely great comic book series if you haven't already. It'll be very exciting to see what happens next, but one thing is for sure, all of the Radiant Black fans are definitely waiting for the next installment with bated breath. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, come on, you gotta admit, that's actually super cool.
Sorry, kid.